I'm Dr. Michael DiTolla.
And I'm Megan Strong.
What can three bald guys teach you about dentistry? Well, you're going to find out in today's Case of the Week.
And we'll tell you why you should leave the care of your canines to the professionals.
And in Taiwan, they've invented a smart tooth that'll actually tell you when your patients are bruxing, grinding, eating, and even smoking. Do we really need an app for that? Don't adjust your TV. That's Megan's shirt, and this is Chairside Live. Hey now, hello, and welcome to episode 68 of Chairside Live. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm on day 2 of my sugar detox.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know you were going to undergo this.
I am. My goal, I'm starting small, baby steps, and so I'm starting just with a whole week. A week of I'm still eating fruit and whatever, but just not any added sugars, no cookies, candy, anything.
Oh, really?
Cream, yeah.
So I won't be snacking this week.
Nope, sorry.
On Chairside Live. So it's just the processed sugar kind of thing, but natural sugars like fruits and whatever. What about orange juice?
I don't normally drink it, so.
Okay, it's too concentrated anyway. Eat an orange instead.
Perfect. And you get the fiber.
Hey! Which you, as we both know, don't need yet, but maybe one day. All right, well, we got an interesting show for you today. We've got an interesting case of the week. In fact, the case of the week this week is another interview. You may recall that probably about 2 months ago we had a chance to chat with Dr. Gordon Christensen, and we broke that up into a couple weeks, and everybody seemed to love that. This Monday, actually, there happened to be a couple of my favorite people in town. One was Gary Takacs, who is a practice management consultant from Scottsdale, Arizona. And the thing I love about Gary is he's the only practice management consultant I know of in the country who actually owns a dental practice and is about to own a second dental practice. And I love that about him. The analogy we used during the interview was, would you take swim lessons from somebody who had never been in a pool? Well, no, of course not. You'd want somebody who would swim. So the fact that he owns his own dental practice, to me, is a very attractive feature to look for in a consultant or a coach. And sitting down with us as well is Dr. Howard Farran, the CEO and founder of Dental Town. Howard is an old friend of mine. We go way back. And you know what? A lot of people kind of mellow out with age as they get a little bit older, and Howard's not one of them. He might be going the opposite direction, I'm not sure. But it always ends up being a very interesting conversation. And so the three of us sat down together and had an extended, long-form conversation, which is one of the things I love about this show and I love about podcasts. It's not just some 30-second little blurb. You actually get to hear what people think and say about a variety of topics. So I hope you look forward to seeing this interview. We're going to place it in place of the Case of the Week over the next couple of episodes. I had a great time doing it, and I think you'll have a great time watching it. And well, in fact, let's go to that now. Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Chairside Live. No, Megan did not fall down a well and Timmy the dog is going to come tell us where she is or help us out. She hasn't gone home with the wrong boy after school who plays in the rock band instead of working at his dad's hardware store. It's a very special episode of Chairside Live because I'm here today with two of my favorite people, Dr. Howard Farran, the founder and CEO of Dental Town. Good afternoon, Howard.
Thank you.
And Gary Takacs, my favorite practice management consultant, and to my knowledge, still the only practice management consultant in dentistry who owns a dental practice. Talking about, walk the walk and talk the talk. Well, let's start with you, Gary.
Almost
what have you
2 practices.
Exactly, with the second one coming up. What have you learned by owning your own practice?
Michael, I have to tell you, I bought this practice in partnership with a young doctor, Dr. Paul Nielsen. We bought it in May of 2007. And the vision that I had for owning a practice is that I thought that it'd be great to own a practice to really understand what goes on a day-to-day basis with dentists. And I always thought I had a lot of empathy. At that point I had been in a couple thousand practices as a coach. But frankly, I knew it academically at that point. And I wanted to really move from an academic knowledge of practice management to a practical approach where, frankly, it was my money on the table and I owned it. And I have to tell you something, Michael, I couldn't imagine doing what I do today without owning a practice. I thought it would be useful. And I thought it would be enlightening. But, if I'm lecturing on a Friday, I'll from September through May, on most Fridays, I'm somewhere around the country speaking to a dental audience. I spend a day a week in my own practice, and it's pretty unusual where I haven't learned something in the day that I'm in my practice that I can't apply and update my slides and update that.
That makes a lot of sense. And Howard, training for his first Ironman, going to be competing in the Ironman Arizona later this year in November. Howard,
by the time this is filmed, I will have lost the Ironman. So
you will have lost.
Really?
I've got a lot of money riding on you to win the whole thing. So apparently that wasn't the wisest of bets. To take a Ironman twist on Gary's analogy, to be a dental practice management consultant and own a dental practice, to have one who doesn't own one, it sounds a lot like taking swim lessons from a guy who's never actually been in a pool before.
This Ironman journey has really meant a lot to me, and all of us know back, you and I mean, 25 years ago, we used to take a ton of classes together. I mean, when we were young and fresh out of school, and it was just, baloney. I mean, it was like put fresh flowers in the waiting room and sit around and sing Kumbaya and everything takes care of itself. And we look back at those years that almost everyone that owned the circuit had no accountability, owned no practice, could say whatever they want and get away with it because they've been saying it and getting away with it forever. It was just crazy. And this Ironman thing was really refreshing because, number one, it's really fun to be a new beginner at something. Right. And so I had never swam, bike, did that, but I thought, okay, I'll get consultants. I'll get coaches, people who have the track record. And they made such a huge difference in my life. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, the reason I did that is because when you show up and you're 50 years old and you're 50 pounds overweight, at what point do you just say, it ain't working? So most people think, well, I don't need a nutritionist, I don't need a dietitian, I don't need a sports trainer coach. It's like, dude, you're 50 years old and 50 pounds overweight, it ain't working. And that's what I like to flip on dentists is like, I admit it, I showed up 50 pounds overweight and I'm down 38. And you look at dentists and they just say, I don't need a consultant. It's like, dude, what has to go wrong with your practice? Right. Does it need to be the Titanic and sink to the bottom of the ocean? Yep. And then I look at, I still believe, of all the practices that I've seen, of all the numbers and everything, I still think the number one office in reality is Dr. Jerome Smith in Lafayette, Louisiana. I mean, I don't care if you're talking about gross dog, everything. Employees been there forever, everything. He still has a consultant come in every single year, and you'd be thinking, why would a guy with your numbers, why? Well, that's why he's there.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't think a lot of, even dentists would consider training for an Ironman without a coach. And so maybe it's the word consultant that kind of has a feel to it versus coach, but I like to think of it as a coaching relationship. And Gary Howard was right. We were taught when you get out of school, just hang the shingle out there, put the flowers, and they will come to you. Today's reality is a little bit different. I know you're really into marketing from a dental practice perspective, or digital marketing. Tell us a little bit about that and what you've been doing for your own practice.
Michael, I'd have to say that if someone asked me if I could list 2 reasons why you'd succeed today in 2013 and beyond. And I can only list 2. There's certainly many factors that would contribute to success. But if I had to list 2, I would list them as these. I would say, 1, you need to have a marketing plan to consistently attract quality new patients. 1. And 2, I would say we need to have some internal systems, perhaps a new patient experience, that guides that patient to become more interested in dentistry and to guide them towards more ideal care. On the marketing side, I like to think of marketing as kind of a 3-legged milk stool. I like that analogy because if any one of those legs isn't there, it topples over. But it's also important to think of it as the importance of the legs being equal length, because if they're not equal length, then the stool's imbalanced. And the 3 legs of the marketing stool that I think of are internal marketing, external marketing, and digital marketing. So internal is all about turning our patients into raving fans. Mm-hmm. They can't wait to go out and tell other people about it. So, by the way, happens the old-fashioned way, face-to-face, where I can't wait to tell my neighbor about you. But you know where it's happening even more so today? It's happening online through online reviews, good and bad. So internal marketing is about turning patients into raving fans. Secondly is external marketing, which we think of as traditional advertising and marketing. And there's still some really cool fundamentals that are working extremely well today in the world of external marketing. And that third leg of the stool is digital marketing. And digital marketing is kind of the shiny, sexy object, that we're so interested in these days because it's kind of new and exciting. And that's really complicated these days. It's a great website. It's a mobile website. It's a search strategy. You have to have a great website, but if you don't have a strategy to direct eyeballs to the site, you can have the greatest site in the world that nobody ever sees.
Right.
Beyond that, we need to have a social media strategy today. It's so cool the way we can connect. If you think about it, one of my favorite mentors and guides today in business, and I'm sure you both know who he is, but in fact, I believe he goes to the same stylist that the three of us go to, Seth Godin.
Purple Cow.
The Purple Cow. And he wrote a book called Tribes. And it was essentially about how there is a longing, a human longing to connect. And it actually goes back, to the evolution of mankind. It goes back to caveman days when, we wanted to connect, with other human beings. And that has evolved to the point today where human beings still have a longing to connect. And really what creating a great practice is about today is creating a tribe of patients, that think of the dental office as their dental family. I know it sounds a little corny, but it's their dental family.
It's really not, and that's, religion wouldn't exist without this longing for connection like that. Right. And when you talk about marketing, the most extreme, I don't think I've ever seen a dentist who wanted it more than Howard Farran did when he started off. When Howard started his practice in Ahwatukee, he and his wife went door to door, knocking on doors. This is illegal today, I'm sure. You'd probably be shot. But going door to door, knocking on doors with balloons, if they had kids, and telling them what they did for a dental practice. And, we can do this and this. And they'd say, oh, that sounds great. I'd love to come by. And his wife would whip out the appointment book right there. I don't know any other dentist who went door to door to do something like that. That's desire. That's not taking no for an answer, and I'm going to make this practice succeed. I don't know if you would do that again today.
I absolutely would.
Well, can I share?
I just want to make 2 points on that, though. When I opened up my practice, I decided that, the way to win this office right out of the gate is get out there and press the flush, shake hands, and run from air. And I got a big map in my area. It was like, I think it was at the time it was 11,000 homes. It took me 6 months to walk them on weekends. I walked to every single door. I knocked on the doorbell. I was with my wife at the time, and I just pressed flush, say, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. I just want to meet you. Every third house made an appointment. But today, when I talk about marketing, the thing that's scary when we're talking about marketing on a video on the internet is that I cannot stand the term the United States of America. It's very confusing to dentists. You might be able to talk about what works in like Denmark or Sweden, but the United States is 117 towns, over 100,000 people, and everything Gary is saying is absolutely dead on. And when you get to the 19,033 towns, most of the big messages you hear are incorrect. Yellow pages still work in a town of 4,000. The long-term staff, talking about raving fans, the long-term staff, if you go into a town of 5,000, the dentist whose average staff's been there 12 years is making 3 times more than the dentist whose average staff's been there 2 years. So when you get to these really small-town things, Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and LinkedIn kind of go to the wayside, and if you sneeze on this side of town, they know it on that side of town. And that's why I think that it's time to get back to basics. Before we ask why are your patients not coming back, why are your staff not coming back? Well, why are we having staff turnover?
And I just ran into Jan while I was out at your office a couple weeks ago. How long has she been with you?
25 years.
Right.
25 years. And it's that type of deep relationship. Like people ask me, where do I get most of my new patients? Almost all of my new patients were because they were born from my old patients 25 years ago.
Right.
My new patients. I have people come to Arizona, and I say, well, why do you come to me if you live in North Scottsdale or you live in Glendale or Dill? And they go, well, this is where my mom and dad went. You were my dentist when I was 3 years old and 5 years old, and they're driving an hour back. I have a girl driving in next Friday from Sedona for me to pull her wisdom teeth because I pulled her mama's wisdom teeth and her daddy's wisdom, one of those stories.
Exactly.
But so yeah, I think it's
well, that's exactly what Gary's talking about, that kind of community where you are their dentist. It's not even like, it hasn't even occurred to them to go somewhere else. You know, it's like this is where our
tribe.
family goes. It's kind of like their church. You know, they don't decide, you know what, I think I'll become Muslim. They go, no, there's a Christian church that we've been going to my whole life, and this is where I'm going to go because this is my this is my tribe, these are my people, and this is who I belong with.
You know, Howard's spot on that. You know, there are some marketing fundamentals, you know, that we can talk about in terms of, you know, some marketing strategies. But when it comes to actually implementing those at the practice level, you have to be very mindful of the local geography, the local customs, the local flavor of the practice. And, you know, to talk about concepts that work universally, you know, is a mistake. But there are some fundamentals, you know, that we can pay attention to, and those fundamentals can serve as the core of how we design a marketing plan to consistently attract quality new patients. But, you know, in my own practice, the lifeblood of our practice is new patient flow. And it's wonderful, you know, to see we have opportunities today that weren't available even just a few years ago when it comes to marketing. Online reviews is something I'm very excited about these days, yet it's a bit of a minefield, you know, in terms of getting those online reviews.
Yeah, it is.
And you have to navigate that because, you know, be careful about stepping on the mines.
Right.
But you know, having patients that are your raving fans that can't wait to go out and tell other people about you on the internet, which goes out to broadcast.
I lecture and there'll be like, you know, multiple dental offices, and I'll go to the first dental office. There's a doctor, a dentist, his wife, hygienist, everything. I'll say, can anybody pull out their phone and show me how to write an online review? Can you name an online review site? No one knows how. And yet they'll be in their office, and you cherry pick those cases of when you cement that anterior crown, the woman, high aesthetic needs, and she's all crying and everything. They don't capture it on their little iPhone, which would take a sixth grader could do to upload it on YouTube or their deal. They don't sit there and say, hey, take out your iPhone, because you want their iPhone and their IP address. The last thing you want at Google is finding different people writing a review from your IP address.
Right.
That's a huge no-no. And they can't even coach the patient to pull out their iPhone or their iPad and let's write a review right there when she's teary-eyed, and it's a great case, and there's so many missed opportunities.
Well, the last thing you and I thought about graduating from school 25 years ago was that one day a patient would be sitting at home reviewing our dental skills or our dental office on the internet. I think a lot of dentists struggle with this, with like, well, if I just ignore this, it's just going to go away. But the chances are that the person who happens to have a bad experience at the office, they're made to wait, their temporary comes off 4 times, whatever it might be, it seems they're much more likely to write a scathing online review than somebody spontaneously doing positively.
Is huge to do with it. So in our tribes, these women are, it's just not very natural to talk down a man, and, you know, the dentist says this, you know, whatever. And then they leave, and they don't have those 200 facial muscles and all the biology going against it, and they're just looking at their deal, and they just get on there and say, hey, that crown did not match, that was the worst experience, everything he said, you know, blah, 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 blah. So online reviews and negativity, it's almost 80% females.
Right.
And a man like me, if it did match, I'm more likely to say, dude, it doesn't match. Right. No, I'm not leaving here. This is not what we talked about.
Right.
But the women are more likely to say, it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you say, how was everything? And you just like, you don't want to get into it. You're just like, fine.
It was great.
You don't want to sit there and say,
we'll never be back.
Yeah, I'll never be back.
Right.
Where was the waiter? I waited 3 times for an iced tea.
Right.
This place is, so you just don't want a confrontation.
See, the problem with me is that a lot of times I'll put that anterior crown on and it looks so bad they start to cry. And then I remember what you said about video that when they're crying when they get their new tooth, and that's been what I've been posting and it hasn't worked. 20 years ago, you had an idea for a website called Dental Town, and I thought it was an amusing idea at the time because you couldn't even turn on a computer. In fact, if I pointed 4 square objects to you, I'm not sure you could have picked which one was the computer. And you knew nothing about it. And you used to think I was the computer expert, and you said I'd rather play with a computer than drive a race car. And so you knew so little about it that when you came up with this idea of Dental Town, all these dentists would get together with these slow dial-up speeds of the time and just how difficult it was to do things. I thought you were nuts. I thought, well, this is Howard just kind of going off on another one of his things. And I got to say, man, you were proved absolutely correct. Give us an update on how Dental Town's doing.
You know why Amazon went with the name Amazon but started with books? Because he knew the internet would get rid of the direct mail stuff, and it was all cooking, cuisine, women's clothes. But the pipes are too small on the internet to download an image. So he went with textbooks. So Amazon started with books just because Bezos knew it would be a decade before the internet pipes were big enough to download pictures. Now they sell TVs and everything. But what grabbed me the most on the internet is, in fact, Dentaltown was launched in '99 and Facebook was launched in 2005. His dad, Ed Zuckerberg, was on Dentaltown in 2002. He's a friend of mine. We've had dinner several times. And what the whole world has seen is that when I first realized that I could talk to another dentist like you or a consultant like you and say, I'm all alone over here. And what motivates me so much is that the world has, everybody says the world has 7 billion people. Well, I'm a dentist. I don't see them as people. I see them all as patients. And you and I are dentists. There's only 2 million dentists. And each dentist has 3,500 earthlings behind him. And when I'm helping a dentist, I never ever think that I'm helping a dentist. I'm always looking through that dentist and seeing the 3,500 people in his village and counting on this guy. He's their only hope. It's like when I do missionary dentistry, I hated the business model the first time I did it. Okay, so we're going to go in there and be heroes for 3 days and leave? Well, why don't we go there and find all the local dentists in the brush, get them in there, educate them for 3 days, show them what we're doing. Then we have follow-up. We can send them materials, whatever. And what has got me the most excited in the world is this. We're out here in LA. This thing only exists because of the missionaries that came to, San Juan's Capistrano. Look at Ireland. I'm 100% Irish. Do you know why St. Patrick's had a 3-leaf clover? Why he's known as 3-leaf clover?
No.
That was his only teaching method, to teach the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And what I see is, I've been in a dozen dental schools this year, from Kathmandu to India to Shenzhen, China, and those schools have no resources. I mean, they have some 20-year-old books. In Nepal, they had some 20-year-old Chinese dental books and some 10-year-old French dental books. No one there spoke Chinese or French. They all spoke Nepalese. I said, what do you do with these books? They said, look at the picture. And I said, well, what is your curriculum? They hold up. The entire curriculum is dentaltown.com. And so
University of Dentaltown. At Nepal.
Well, and it's free. I mean,
Right.
we don't charge a penny for any online, for anything outside the United States.
So it's probably way more appreciated outside the United States than it is inside the United States.
Well,
and I like that. I like that you're not bitter, because it sounds like with Dentaltown starting in '99 and you knew Zuckerberg's dag, and then Facebook started in 2004. It kind of sounds like you think he ripped you off. But I'm glad you're not. I'm glad you're not bitter about it.
No, but I just want to make this one point. When dentists, there's 150,000 dentists in the United States, and there's about 350,000 dentists that live like we do. But there's a million 500,000 dentists out there who don't live like we do. And every time you post a case of showing how to do something on Dentaltown or Facebook or Google Plus, whatever, every time you're the missionary, you're the St. Patrick's.
Right. No, I get that. I get that.
Because when you're doing this on YouTube, they're watching you on YouTube. And
they are. Absolutely. And they are.
And they're listening to your damn podcast in 105 countries?
Yeah, 105 countries.
And 500 years ago, it was Gutenberg's press that really changed the world and started this deal. But right now, the internet is Gutenberg's press. Instead of printing a book, the internet is books at the speed of light.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. D. It looks like you guys have quite the trio, the bald mafia, if you will.
Yeah, we. I don't think that occurred to any of us until we all walked in, and we kind of we're standing here getting ready. We all kind of looked at each other, and I don't remember who was the first one to say it, but it was the glare coming off all 3 of the domes that were blinding the crew. They were diving into dark corners. So.
Right. Well, we look forward to the next installments.
We wish you could have been there and be part of the bald mafia as well.
I don't know if I wish that.
Crossed.
Okay, maybe we'll see. Now let's go to a segment we call Viewer Mail. This week's viewer mail comes to us from Dr. J.D. Mayfield from Paris.
Ooh la la, we have an international email.
Don't get too excited, it's Kentucky. And he writes, Dear Dr. DiTolla, I enjoyed reading your clinical and scientific documentation on BruxZir. I definitely agree that the fit of BruxZir, and for that matter Emax crowns, are superior to PFM crowns. My only complaint of BruxZir is shade match, and for that reason, I almost always use Emax for interior crowns. One thing that you did not address in the article If using Ceramer or Fujisim for cementation, should the crown be completely filled with cement, or should the crown just be lined with the cement medium? Again, thanks again for the well-written article on BruxZir.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mayfield, for writing in all the way from Paris. We went to Paris last Christmas, but not Kentucky, the other one.
Okay.
But this lab actually has a proud history of Kentucky. Jim Glidewell's from Kentucky, and Jim Schock, the two big Jims, the Slim Jims, are both from Kentucky. And so we hear a lot of Kentucky talk while we're at lunch together, hearing about where they grew up. So hope things are going well for you there in Paris, and that's a great question. First of all, thank you for your kind words. We did put a lot of work into that, trying to explain to dentists why this monolithic material, this solid zirconia crown BruxZir, is different from the other ones. And I agree with you that the fit tends to be better on these, especially on BruxZir, because of the fact that it can be made to a feather edge preparation, something that we really can't do with Emax. And so as a result, when doctors do prep something or under prep it, if they're doing a PFM, for example, and put feather edge margins and don't ask for a metal collar, then we can go ahead and use the BruxZir to that feather edge. And it's got such a nice emergence profile because we can take it down to a feather edge. And so that's one of the big things that dentists tell us they love about it, is when they run their Explorer up and down a BruxZir crown, it doesn't have that click or that speed bump there. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to the anterior, Emax is still the #1 prescribed anterior crown that we have here in the lab. And for the average technician out there, it's going to be much easier for them to make an Emax crown, especially a single unit anterior crown, blend in with the surrounding dentition. Now, you'll notice that we have different videos. In fact, we're getting ready to put another one up where I do a single unit anterior BruxZir crown, and it looks stunningly good. But you have to keep in mind that I've got an in-house dental technician here with me, and she not only gets pictures what the patient's tooth looks like with the shade tabs in place, but she can also actually come up and take a look at the patient, and sometimes we'll even stain the crown, taking it in and out of the patient's mouth while they have the retractors in. And that's why I always say that having an in-office lab technician is definitely the easiest way to do some really quality aesthetic restorative dentistry. So if you don't have a technician in your office, and most dentists don't, Emax is still a really good way to go. Now, that being said, one of the things we're constantly working on is increasing the translucency of the BruxZir material. And as it gets more translucent, it gets more natural tooth-like and start to be able to compete a little bit with Emax. So that might still be, those are very incremental changes that happen, and it's not like we even release, hey, it's a new edition of BruxZir. They'll just start to get more translucent over time. And I think you'll notice one day, and I'll probably not keep it a secret either, that I feel like it can compete well with Emax in the anterior. But as of today, you're right, Emax definitely still wins the aesthetic challenge. Your other question was how to fill the cement inside of one of these restorations, a BruxZir or an Emax crown. And I am definitely a fill the crown completely kind of guy. And the reason for that is we have some very, very accurate parameters that we use in CAD/CAM dentistry today. And for example, every single BruxZir or Emax crown that we make has 90 microns of cement space that is actually in the design file. So 90 microns of space between the tooth and the inside surface, the intaglio of the crown. Now, in the old days, in the PFM days, the technicians would paint on manually 2 coats of dye spacer on the die. But depending on if a technician left it open, that would get a lot thicker, and it would be a thicker layer, 2 layers of dye spacer on there. It could be anywhere almost 200 microns. Newer bottles were thinner, and some people put a very thin coat on. Some techs put 2 thicker coats on. The good news is with CAD/CAM, we've been able to iron all of that out, and everything's at a standard 90 microns. Now, when you consider the fact that the Ceramer cement has a 15 micron film thickness, and Fujisim's even lower. It's around 9 or 10, but basically essentially the same. Considering that we're leaving you 90 microns for cement space so that it'll work with any cement, filling the crown completely with a 15 micron cement like Ceramer, putting it into place, and then having the patient bite down on it on a cotton roll like I do, I feel very, very confident that that crown is going down all the way. And I really do want to see excess cement come out everywhere. When we look at SEM pictures here of a 70 micron margin, that's kind of what dentistry is shooting for, unless you're doing cast gold and burnishing margins. We're always got that 70 micron margin. Sometimes it's 90. Sometimes you might get lucky and it's 50. But when you look at it under an SEM, you'll see the crown stop here and the tooth stop here. And when you blow it up, obviously, thousands of times, you can see that it's a big gap, that 50, 60, 70 micron gap, and you can see the cement right in between there. That's going to be your first line of defense for a recurrent decay. Now, you won't see it with the naked eye, but you do see it on the SEM. And so I never really just want to coat the inside or around the margin with a thin layer and push it down and not be able to see with my naked eye that I don't really have that nice band of cement right there that's going to be the protection against recurrent decay. And so for that reason, I fill up the whole crown, push it down, and I get a nice bead of material 360 degrees around the crown that we're going to peel off of there. And that's one of the reasons I like Ceramer, because it's got that gel stage, that doughy stage, where it's very easy to peel that off. So I do prefer to fill the whole crown just to make sure, so I know from doing our SEMs here that that 70 micron margin will have cement in there that's going to set and be our first line of defense. So great question. Thank you very much. And I'd like to, if it was Paris, France, I might hand deliver whatever you've decided to give to Dr. Mayfield for writing that in.
I think I would have to do that, actually.
We might have to go on the road. Take the show on the road.
Hey, listen.
Go to Paris. We could wear mini berets.
We could.
Eat some croissants.
Sounds good. Well, in short of that, we don't have that, but we do have this autographed photo. Da-dun-da-dun.
That looks slightly familiar, just in the sense that it's me smirking at the camera and you looking disgusted.
Right, and I was joking with the film crew saying, if anyone wanted to know about the general sentiment of the show, the feel, the atmosphere, if you will, just show them this picture, because this is very common.
Right, and it's me thinking to myself, I think I'm funnier than I actually am.
Right.
And you're thinking, I'm pretty sure he's going to hell.
Well, on that note, I'm going to sign it.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Can I throw in something for him? Do you mind?
Oh, go ahead.
You know, in Kentucky, Eastern Daylight Time, we all move at a little slower pace there. It's not the hustle and bustle like here. Sometimes you lose track of time.
Yeah.
We're on Kentucky time. So we preset this to Kentucky time, and we're going to send this out to Dr. Mayfield this year, Chairside Live. You can put it in the reception area, but it'll probably get stolen. I would keep it somewhere more secure in the back office.
Too.
And no better way to time your 4 minutes on an impression than with the official Chairside Live card.
agree.
So thank you so much, Dr. Mayfield. We really appreciate the letter. You got any news for us today, May?
I do. Veterinarians in Alberta, Canada are upset over teeth cleaning services being offered for pets. Vets say the anesthetic-free teeth cleaning for dogs and cats is unsafe. The cleaning businesses say the services are just hygienic and fight bad breath and aren't intended to replace the services offered by vets. Vets claim these businesses, which charge around $230 to scale and polish an animal's teeth, are practicing without a license. Dogs need work under their gum lines, and only a vet can do that, but once the animal is sedated. Cease and desist orders were sent to 5 businesses so far. They are also planning to launch a public awareness campaign to put a stop to the unregulated cleaning services.
That's an interesting one. We just got a cat.
Yep,
and
sure did.
There's no way that cat is going to let us clean its teeth without being sedated. In fact, I'm actually pro-sedation for cleanings in dentistry for all males. Because I feel like they're wimpy enough where the hygienist has to like back off a little bit and can't do a thorough job. So just like a dog, I'd like to see most men, given a little shot and lay down, then their cheek pulled up, like you're working on a dog. But it does seem clear, and I've had dogs a lot in my life too, and they would let me pull their lips up. In fact, I actually made one of my dogs a little gold crown for its canine tooth. Big hit at parties. It was really great. In fact, we should get into. No, I'm totally serious.
I have to see a picture of that.
I'm totally serious and cemented. It was before the digital photo days. I'm going to have to go through the old shoebox. This was right after dental school.
Scan that thing.
I'll look for it and see if I can find one. But even then, to go subgingival on a dog who's more cooperative than a cat, that's going to be painful. And my fear would be that people think that the teeth are being cleaned, whereas in reality, everything that you can see above the gum line is being cleaned, but where the real damage and what leads to tooth loss is being left there. Because how are you going to take a scalar subgingival on a dog that doesn't understand what you're doing
Not going to happen.
Does not enjoy the procedure?
Right, and you've heard me on the show talk about Parker, my dog, my Australian Shepherd, who actually turns a year next month.
Oh,
He'll be
wow.
1-year-old. But the only thing he'll let me do is we have a dog toothbrush or whatever with chicken flavored toothpaste, and he'll sit there and let me kind of do it, but meanwhile he's like trying to chew on the toothbrush. There's no way that I could possibly clean his teeth like a vet could.
I think Parker's trying to chew the toothbrush because it smells like chicken.
Exactly, that's
Right.
what I'm saying.
I know. I'm saying they shouldn't make it smell like chicken.
I know, but then that's the only, I mean, what if it was mint? He probably wouldn't like that, and he would run away from me.
Speaking of mint, there's a plant in the mint family that's more commonly known as catnip. We finally got some catnip for our cat for the first time. I wanted to see if it was going to be like crack cocaine for the cat or heroin. It's a little of both, it turns out.
Really?
They start sniffing it and playing with it, and she rolls on it, and she goes into this weird fugue state, and then she'll start running around the house chasing invisible bugs, and it's like it's got a little
giving your cat
LSD thrown in
Right.
there as well. No, it's catnip. And then about 10 minutes later, she doesn't even want to smell it. She's got to reset. She's got like a refractory period of about 2 hours, and then she might come back to it too. And it's this little catnip mouse, so she can tell what it is. But recently, we took a dog, Boo, the cutest dog in the world.
Right,
We
yep.
have that stuffed animal.
Of course
we
you do.
rammed some catnip up its backside. It's a stuffed animal. And now she
is
looks
this
at this
going?
dog. Well, there's hidden catnip.
Okay.
She doesn't know, and she sees this dog, and they're naturally confrontational
Sure.
in the wild, but he smells so delicious, she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She looks, and I can read her mind, and she's thinking, this is a dog, I should hate him, but I'm super
Dr.
attracted
Doolittle,
to
is
his-
that you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
All right, cool. So I think we're both in favor of having professionals do the cleaning
Yes.
under sedation.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yep. We have smartphones, smart TVs, smart cars, and now a smart tooth. Researchers in Taiwan have invented a smart tooth prototype that monitors jaw movements to track a person's eating, drinking, chewing, and even smoking habits. The key to the technology is a tiny motion sensor the size of a fingernail, which can be used in a removable fake tooth or inserted into a crown. And it will be helpful to more than just physicians. Dentists, dietitians, and other specialists can benefit from monitoring patients' oral habits. And it was 94% accurate in research testing.
Wow, that's kind of like a low jack device, for the mouth, because from the sound of things, you would be able to tell. Like I've got a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 15-year-old, and you've got me thinking about. Now it says it has to be a crown. None of them need a crown, but I'll prep them anyway.
There you go.
In order to put a smart crown on that, but then I don't know. How do you know if they've been drinking? Do you have to take the crown out, or does it like wirelessly transmit to a computer? Did it say how that part of the technology was going to work?
No, they leave it in, but when they monitor the jaw movements, they can tell by what your jaw is doing of which activity you're engaging in.
Oh, so it wouldn't detect alcohol.
No, so it wouldn't say like, oh, you just ate a banana.
Right.
It wouldn't tell you exactly what it was, but it would just...
That would be helpful, though, if you were
Right.
blindfolded and eating things and you
Right.
didn't know what you had just eaten.
But, and I mean, and it is sort of like, you can't, it is a little bit Big Brother's watching sort of a deal, but it also, like, if you think about it for, as from a dentist standpoint, it can totally watch and see for, parafunctional habits and
Right.
all, identify bruxism or whatever it may
But does
be.
it tell you live? Like, does it tell you while the crown is still in their mouth?
I'm not sure.
Because I can't
story didn't
imagine.
say.
It wouldn't be very smart of a smart tooth to have to cut it out and then sync it up
Right.
and not have something to put back
Sure.
in. So there must be a Bluetooth
I think it
transmitter or
has
something
to
like that to be able to
transmit
do
to
that.
something else.
Okay, so it does it based on jaw movements.
Yes.
What are the smoking jaw movements? I wonder how it.
I don't know. I don't smoke.
Nor do I, but
Good.
I wonder. How it does that. But I can
don't
see the
know.
bruxism,
Right.
the clenching and grind. That'd be cool because a lot of patients just flat out deny it.
Right.
But
it's
I
like,
can't-
look at your teeth, okay? You've lost
Yeah,
about...
you'd think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to show them a picture when they were 17 and they still had cuspids and
Right.
things like that. Well, I guess I can't use it then as a moral low jack to put
No.
in my daughter's mouth to see whether or not alcohol has passed her lips. Or to see if there's been another tongue in her mouth, for
Okay,
example, to
stop.
see if she's...
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I just want to... I look at it as kind of a new age chastity belt.
Oh, God.
And I want alarms to go off if any wine cooler, if any Boone Springs or passes her lips. I want big
Wine
sirens to
cooler?
go off
Do
when my
people
phone
drink
does.
wine coolers anymore?
That was back when I was a kid in high school. That's
yeah.
what.
My brother actually drank a wine cooler at my uncle's house. He was probably 12, 11 years old, and he thought it was juice. and it was Christmas time, and we're all there, and there was wine coolers in the fridge, and he popped one open and drank it, because we used to get, there used to be this brand, I think it was called Canadian, Clearly Canadian or whatever.
Yeah.
It was in like a bottle sort of thing. It was like a fruity,
Right.
bubbly drink, and he thought it was one of those, and
Right.
he downed it.
Thanks, Canada. Way to turn a brother into an alcoholic.
No.
At Bartles and James, those two sweet old men, that was a big brand of wine coolers. They look so much like Orville Redenbacher. You just thought it was all
Right.
good, clean stuff and would have no problem doing it. That might have been his best Christmas ever.
Maybe, probably.
Enjoying it, opening the gifts, all buzzed and young. All right, that about wraps it up for this edition of Chairside Live. On behalf of myself, Megan, the CSL crew, and everybody here at the lab, I want to thank you for your time and your continued commitment to quality dentistry.
We'll see you next time. My dad would hate me for telling this story, but okay, so my brother had this stupid dog. I mean, it was a cool dog, but it was just dumb because it would eat everything. It would eat everything. He ate like every piece of hockey equipment in my brother's hockey bag in the garage. We're not sure how he didn't die, but he was staying at my parents' because I think my brother was out of town for work or something, and they have a wiener dog that sleeps in their bed. She burrows down to their feet. It's weird, but so they let the other dog sleep in the bed, and it's like this pit bull puppy, right?
And it ate the comforter?
So they're laying there, and all of a sudden, my mom hears this noise and wakes up.
Good thing you're not overselling this.
And the dog had thrown up all over my dad's head, and he didn't know it. And my mom woke him up and was like, Mark, and he was like, what happened? And there was throw up everywhere.
Ooh la la, we have an international email.